Employees of Mcdonald's, what secrets did you discover while working there? My first day on the job I was told to be on the lookout for the elderly gentleman who would try to sneak around the counter and pour the entire coffee pot into his mug, while everyone was too busy to stop him. Did you ever catch him in the act? Haha, yes, almost immediately. Drop any unopened chicken nugget sauce on the ground once, you've got yourself a sauce grenade. Trash compactor can make for some fun explosions too. We had a vile pack of ketchup that needed tossed for whatever reason. Someone didn't realize it shouldn't go into the compactor. I go back after hearing a bang and a scream. Dude is just caked in ketchup and it shot up out of the barrel of the manual compactor and painted the wall, ceiling, and bun rack. They have since taken away the vile packs. Lol. Poor dude operating it. I would have quit then and there. Because there is no way I wanted to have to clean up that mess, along with the dirty clothing and hair. It's nowhere near as bad as when, let's call him Jeffrey, yeeted a bib of root beer down the loader board that goes downstairs. I tried to stop it like 4 feet from the end of the board. It hit me, spun me around, and broke out of my grasp, smashed the wall, box ripped open on stockroom lock latch, and gutted the bag 5 gallons of root beer syrup. All over me, all over the floor, the walls, everywhere. 4 mop bucket changes to get through it, or my laundry room smelled like a pop factory for a week. By the way guys, if you are enjoying this video so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It will help us out quite a bit, and if you don't enjoy the videos in the future anymore, you can always unsubscribe. Let's get back to the video. Depending on which one you work at, the parking lot is basically a meetup for dealers, and, at least where I was in New Mexico, people to meet up and have in their cars. As long as they kept their business to the middle of the night and didn't cause any serious problems, we were told not to call the cops or make a fuss, mostly because they'd come in and buy food after their shenanigans. Soda and mini pies were really popular with. What I later found out is that management was actually told to let it slide by corporate, since everyone higher up was aware of how much money the night crowd brought in. I got to see many deals. I'm convinced I saw at least one arms deal, but I of course have no way of verifying that. Midnight shifts were draining but so much fun. The kitchen staff is cut by half, but the people who order are so funny. What I learned from working late night fast food is the freaks really do come out at night. And it's freaking hilarious. My coworkers and I referred to Wednesday nights as Weed Wednesdays because the customers were usually chill. Mondays were Mondays because, well, you know. As someone who is nocturnal and works second shift, only the best people are going about their day at 3 AM. At least the most interesting. The official deodorizing spray they gave us is the most pleasant thing I've ever smelled in my entire life. Even now, I wish I could smell it again. I managed a different kind of restaurant, but I know the exact cleaning spray you're describing. Once I had an employee who loved that smell so much that he'd volunteer to clean the bathrooms so he could be able to get close to it. He'd take deep inhales over the open bottles. Kid couldn't get enough. But as pleasant as it smells, it's a ton of serious chemicals in that solution. Probably safer not to take big huffs of it, but no one could talk him out of doing it. Eventually I had to stop letting him clean the bathroom. Read an article a couple of years ago about fumes from cleaning products, and they said that people who clean for a living can't remember the proper term, are exposed fumes that are equivalent of smoking a pack a day. Ike. But damn, the smell of a chlorinated bathroom bring back so many childhood memories from Italy, since all the relatives you would visit always cleaned with chlorine right before you came over, and then there was always a feast. So as an adult I get the urge to poop and eat when I smell chlorine. I worked there when I was in high school. Not a secret, but I hadn't known much about franchises before then. I hadn't realized that McDonald's could vary quite a bit in quality and professionalism based on who the owners were and what type of management/workplace they set up. I worked at a really good one with good management, but some I have 2 McDonald's near me, both relatively same distance. The one I usually go to is more crowded, but I feel that the food is better prepared and the drinks taste right. I've been to the other McDonald's before, not as crowded, but the nuggets tend to have a stale texture and the Coke has this weird bubblegum type aftertaste lol. Even as someone who is a customer, not a McDonald's worker, this has always been pretty clear to me. I remember being told, before doing international travel, that McDonald's is usually a safe bet as somewhere that will have a clear toilet while you're out exploring. That's pretty accurate, based on my experience in UK/Europe/North Africa. But I've also been to the McDonald's at Logan Central in Brisbane, Australia, and it was the single most disgustingly unclean restaurant I've ever been to, bar none. A toilet with no seat and toilet paper strewn about the room, tables that hadn't been cleaned in hours, and staff that looked at me like I had two heads when I politely asked if they could wipe the table down for us. Seriously, I don't expect Michelin stars when I go to McDonald's, but that place would have been closed down immediately if any sort of health inspector visited. Former employee here. I found out that when making 5 gallons of sweet tea, an entire 4-pound bag of sugar goes in. Sandwiches with round egg use real, cracked eggs, folded and scrambled, come from packaged goods in the freezer or fridge. I also had a manager that insisted more people purchase filet-o-fish when it's raining out because they subconsciously associate the watery weather with fish. Anyway, he did some research by pouring through sales of filet-o-fish for months and months and comparing it to weather data for each day. Turns out he found something like a 3% increase on rainy days and was very pleased with himself. Edit. Wow, I will answer some of your questions up here so people can see. The manager voiced his theory one day and the crews all argued with him about it. This went on for a while. He was committed to proving us wrong, so he secretly pulled the sales numbers at work and did the rest on his own time, never breathing a word until he brought his printed report in to shut us all up. He did separate Fridays during Lent and compared those days to each other in anticipation of having holes poked in his research. We still did that anyway, of course. As pointless and imperfect as the research was, it was impressive to see his commitment to giving us the middle finger. My manager used to be on my back all of the time for "giving out too much sauce." He tried telling me the limit is 1 per meal. Edit. I'm based in the UK. Our portions generally are smaller here, but I would still give out as many sauces as possible, FCK being stingy. A drive-through customer once lost it because he didn't get his free sauce. He ended up punching the manager and then was promptly arrested. Wild times. I used to order their breakfast bagel like every other morning, 2006-ish, and would get salsa with it. One time it all changed. I asked for salsa and they told me no. I was a service industry worker too, so I wasn't mad. I politely asked for it again and offered money. It was so absurd, this poor drive-through worker. They finally just gave me a packet and then just gave it to me afterward. Like, I could feel their soul leaving over this condiment rule. I told them I wasn't mad at them and that I was sorry their manager/owner sucked so bad. It eventually stopped. Shocker. Customers probably complained non-stop, so that was good. I bet those employees still have nightmares about the soul-sucking fights over ketchup and salsa they had to endure so the owner could save a few bucks. I used to go to a back that was like that with ketchup packets. They had a pump, but it never worked in 4 years. When you'd ask for packets, it felt like they were coming out of their paychecks. Dehydrated onions, you put them in a metal thing and just add water. The thing is they still taste great. But I was shocked and happy that I didn't have to go cut onions. They taste 100 times better if you put them on the quarter meat before cooking it and letting them rehydrate with the fats of the quarter meat. I bet they would. I honestly never worked there long enough to learn ins and outs like that. I worked there as long as it took me to find a job that wasn't McDonald's. But I did like cooking a million burgers with the timer and flippin' M. That was fun. My wife always jokes that if we won millions I'd go back and work at McDonald's. It was my favorite job. I got to work for a bunch of different franchisees since I worked in university, then back home, and then they flew me out to another area to work at a location that was short-staffed. I was obsessed with the Second Saver book. I learned every aspect of the business. Even when I left the McDonald's, I stayed plugged in. When I was in the transportation industry, I tried to sell into the McDonald's suppliers and learned how they did business. I've had 5-ish good jobs since, spanning 3 career types. I still love the business of McDonald's, the real estate development side, the logistical management side, and the food service side. I worked at McDonald's when they first introduced sweet tea, and remember that it was brewed in a large bucket mixing hot water with a full bag of granulated sugar. It makes me sick to think about, but I still sometimes crave that disgustingly sweet tasty garbage. We have a chain around here called Chicken Express. I don't know how much sugar they put in their tea, but McDonald's doesn't hold a candle to it. If you order a half unsweetened, half sweetened tea, that's still sweeter than McDonald's. I love Chicken Express, but I took one sip of that tea and I could feel my teeth rotting away. If you let that sit more than 5 minutes, I'm pretty sure you'd see sugar settle to the bottom. It's that oversaturated. And people buy it by the gallon. It's very common. It's like Red Diamond brand or something. I used to buy gallons of Chicken Express sweet tea and then mix it with another gallon or so of water. It was still almost too sweet. For the one I worked at in high school, burgers are kept in a warming area for no more than 15 minutes, then thrown out, and new ones are made. You get a free meal from anything except the salads. Meal is a sandwich, medium fries and a medium drink. At the end of the night, all the cooked meat is thrown out. If you want, you can use it to make burgers and take them home with you. Specific tools and grill section for cooking chicken vs beef to make sure they don't cross for those customers who don't eat beef. The Hindu cowwalkers were very vocal about this rule if you work the grill. Regarding the free meal, I remember it was a free meal every 4 hours. Ultimately, you could have 2 free meals during an 8-hour shift. I think that was store specific. We got 1 meal and technically 1 drink, but the manager said if we were thirsty, just get something to drink. Just don't it. One of my managers even snuck us free hot chocolates and lattes if we worked in the drive-thru when it was cold. McDonald's doesn't pay well, so treating people extra nice, telling them they're doing a good job, those hot chocolates for the drive-thru workers, etc. goes a long way to a happy, productive staff that doesn't call off as much. They feel invested in the mission. Man, reading these I'm wondering why my McDonald's was so boring. We didn't spit on anything. The stuff that needed to be kept clean was kept clean. If it wasn't required, it would be filthy. The ice cream machine worked fine. Food wasn't undercooked. On occasion it was overcooked. Employing high school kids, of course they are gonna make some mistakes, but nothing too bad. My time wasn't bad. We kept it clean, and no one I know ever tampered with the food. But there was a lot of funny things that happened, so I have a lot of stories. Example, one day, we had 10 minutes to close. It was myself off at close, the grill closer, the service closer, and the manager. Grill closer had on a headset, as he was praying no one else came in, as he was very low on a few things, and didn't want to make more right before closing. This guy prided himself on having things done, and being out the door within 10 minutes of closing. Bosses loved him, because other closers took up to an hour, and that meant paying them for up to an hour. One thing to know, our headsets had 2 buttons. One talked to the other headset only, the other talked to the outside speaker. He had been playing a game where he was trying to make the service worker laugh while she was taking the orders. You probably see where this is going. So a driver pulls up to the speaker. He orders a 20-piece nugget. Close our and push the talk to other headset button and goes, man, that stupid order. Except, of course, he hit the wrong button. Needless to say, someone got a free 20-piece and another free meal in the future, and grill members were banned from wearing headsets for a while after that. Sauces for sandwiches have the craziest dispensers. ketchup and mustard are in these really rudimentary plastic funnel things that have a paddle in the handle. When you squeeze it, gravity pushes just the right amount of sauce through holes. Doesn't seem like it'd work well, but it does if you apply the proper amount of jiggling. The mac sauce, mayo, and tartar though, they're in basically cork tubes that get loaded into basically cork guns. You pull the trigger on the handle and a really satisfying ratchety clanking delivers a powerfully saucy surprise for the awaiting buns. Problem is, it takes a bit of finesse, because if you hit that trigger too hard you'll blow the bun and a wad of cream right through the condiment station and onto the wall 8 feet away. No joke, the first couple tartar splurts of a fresh tube came out so hot I'd fire a shot or two in the trash to avoid premature spatulation during the lunch rush. The first salvo, properly elevated and adjusted for wind, could clear the whole kitchen and take out the McInfantry on the cash register. So many affairs and love triangles. Also, I don't know if this counts, but the food was not gross at all. Like, our kitchen was super clean, our meat was frozen and cheap, but it was never gross. Our veggies were always good. The only thing gross was the fact that if you worked the French fries, you would go home covered in oil, but the actual oil wasn't gross. Maybe I just worked at a nicer McDonald's, but we weren't in the nicest of areas. Raw McRibs look hella weird though. I didn't have a car, so I would ride my bike to and from the job at McDonald's, and at the end of the shift my shoes would constantly slip off the pedals because they were so thoroughly coated in fry grease. My roommate worked at McDonald's as well, on the opposite shift. Our apartment always smelled like French fries. It was terrible lol. I started working at MCDS when I was 15. The secret is that it's probably one of the cleanest restaurants in your city. The standardizations and routine practices leave little room for employees to think for themselves. It was a way cleaner restaurant than the $30, $50 sign per person place I would work at later. My BF is a trained health inspector and said he would eat off the floor of McDonald's. Whoa, that's fascinating. What types of restaurants or things in restaurants does he consider to be the most dirty in his experience? Or does he have any other interesting trade secrets? Not who you directed your question to, but I've done commercial pest control for years and agree MCDS actually has most of their equipment on wheels so they can be fully moved and cleaned. Five Guys also has amazing cleaning practices and standards, but every location varies. Five Guys usually has the whole kitchen visible from two sides too. Not much room to hide there. Open kitchens were supposed to be the wave of the future for a while after Chipotle got big, but it never took off completely and now most Chipotles have a second kitchen behind closed doors for online orders and drive-through, if applicable, and a lot of times that's where they do all the prep. Sad to see it go backwards. The McDonald's that I worked at kept a very clean kitchen and front line. I had worked in restaurants that were privately owned, and the food standards, throwing out old food and cleanliness, just weren't the same. I was very surprised with how much they constantly made us clean. My McDonald's was one of the cleanest kitchens I've worked in. We also had alarms that would go off every X minutes that were to remind us to wash our hands. Unless we were busy, our managers would stop us and make us wash our hands, or at least the next time we got a minute between customers we'd have to stop whatever we were doing and wash our hands. The alarm going off and the manager watching to make sure everybody washed their hands and changed gloves. I was so annoyed by it at the time. Okay, that's it. I'm calling it. This post is an ad for McDonald's. I've seen this exact comment in this thread from a different user with slightly different wording, and you're both extremely happy to have cleaned as much as you did in fast food. And I'm sorry, but that kind of enthusiasm for cleanliness doesn't exist. To be fair, I also liked cleaning, because it's much more chill than working in the kitchen or the register. My favorite was picking up trash from the parking lot, because nobody was watching me, so I took my time to make everything look extra clean. Everything that minimized my contact with customers and some colleagues was my favorite part of the job. I worked at MCD in high school. This was the 90s. The store I worked at had incredibly high standards. I was taught proper customer service skills, how to de-escalate a situation, time management, cleaning skills, people skills and so much more. I thrived there. BC I was lacking adult role models anywhere else in my life. My managers made sure I was caught up on my homework, helped me study, made sure I was eating even though it was fast food. It was better than no food. I made some of the best friends I've ever had, and I'm still friends to this day. I can truthfully say working there saved my life in high school. MCDS has a very thorough training program for managers. I was fast-tracked to management, and at 18 they put me through Hamburger University, the MCDS training site in Illinois. That was quite an experience. I ended up leaving MCDS at 19 to go, be a young adult, and try new jobs. I don't have any trade secrets to share really. I'll just say this. Don't knock the kids/people working fast food. Don't make fun of them, laugh at them, or make them feel bad. They are learning valuable skills that will serve them well later in life. They are doing what they can to earn money. They are serving you the junk food you want while learning how to grow up to be a successful adult. Sure, not everyone fits this description, but more people do than you think. I would add that we shouldn't slander people for working anywhere. Money doesn't grow on trees, and especially gastronomy is a really hard line of work, IMO. In the restaurant where I worked we had student doctors, law students, many engineering students. So it was really funny when someone said to one of them that they are an idiot that wouldn't get anywhere in life, only for them to retort with, "I'm a 4th-year student in medicine and going for surgical specialization. How about you? Been a while, so I might have some things wrong." But that was the gist. Cool story. I worked there in my teens for a couple years. Actually worked at 2 different locations, so I saw the difference in standards. At one store there was a guy who always rode his bike to the store every single day to hang out. He was on the spectrum, slow, and McDonald's was kind of his castle. Everyone knew him, and he got a lot of free food from the employees. He was a daily part of the shift for us. Anyway, one day he had one too many root beers. This was a thing he normally did because he pretended the root beers were like real beers and he would get drunk. Everyone kind of would go along with it because he was funny and never did anything too wild. Unfortunately this day he took it a little too far and ended up in the parking lot throwing bottles at cars driving by. Long story short, guy was arrested and he was banned from that McDonald's for life. Kinda felt bad about it because that McDonald's was his favorite place to be. He would pull through at 3 or 4 on his bike and stay and hang out with employees until like 8. Every single day. Before that incident one of the managers even made him his own little parking spot for his bicycle. He was happy as hell. I think about that guy sometimes. Hope he's found himself a new McDonald's. Lol. Not really a secret. More of a story. One time someone replaced the chocolate syrup in the shake machine with barbecue sauce on accident because the bottles are similar. They are labeled differently but it still happened. We found out because a few people complained that the chocolate shakes were sour. We remade them for a couple people and they moved on, but one lady just wouldn't let it go. My manager tasted the shake and was like WTF, then looked and we saw the culprit. Had to clean the line after that, so we didn't have chocolate shakes for a minute. Worst mix up I had as a customer was me ordering my iced tea half cut and it was accidentally cut with iced coffee. Yeah. The containers are pretty similar, so I can see that happening. I've definitely watched people try to make an iced coffee with sweet tea before. What's worse is discovering the issue after hopping on the freeway and taking that first huge gulp and being helpless, but to swallow it. This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed watching this, you might as well watch these too.